Welcome back. This is Power Breakfast on Citizen TV. Hope you're having a great morning. Well, I don't know how far along you are in terms of actualizing the dreams that you've had for your life, but today we're going to talk about some practical steps about turning our dreams into reality. And I'm joined by some ladies who've actually managed to do that in their careers, so they'll tell us more about that. Sitting next to me is Nelly Tuikong, who's the director of Pauline Cosmetics. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Next to her is Nduku Wambua, who's the founder of Networking in Heels. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Gathoni Mahinda, who is an entrepreneur. Thanks for being at Power Breakfast, ladies. So before we talk about steps of turning your dreams into reality, what would you say is the #1 thing that keeps people from, actualizing their dreams?
Fear.
Okay.
Yeah. I think same thing. Fear of execution, I think, and also there's something that I call analysis paralysis.
Wow.
I've had a couple of people call me who've been trying to get something in the beauty industry for the past 4 years, and they'll tell me, I thought about this 4 years ago, and I'm thinking 4 years.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things is basically analysis paralysis, where you sit on an idea, you try to think about it, you think about it some more, you talk yourself out of it, and then eventually it's 4 years later.
What would you say is the #1 thing that keeps people from actualizing their dreams?
Fear of failure. Fear of jumping in there and then it doesn't work, and you have to go back and tell people how you jumped in there and it didn't work. So that, I think, would be #1.
So how do we overcome that? How did you get past your fear in order to start your business?
So, I mean, for Pauline Cosmetics, it wasn't even really so much on my path. I stumbled on it because I was in the healthcare industry. I was a critical nurse, and so that was such a shift from healthcare to beauty industry. But it just happened, and I think one of the things is that it just felt so right. But even that, given that, there's some other ideas that came to me that I did not execute. So why this particular business is I just had a very strong conviction about it. I felt it in my bones. Like, it was one of those things like I knew it, but I didn't know how to maneuver and go ahead with it. And actually we were talking about this a little bit, and it was one of those things where when you start picking momentum, things happen. Things show up, people show up, resources show up. And so going from not knowing anything in makeup to having access to manufacturers and having people sort of mentor me. I had one of the celebrity makeup artists in the States who sort of like, was telling me, you can just start small and, don't worry. But I was looking at all these things that she had, and I wanted it. But I think the moment I started doing the first research, and then something else popped up, and then the next thing, something else popped up. So once you pick momentum, just go with it. And so I think what really helped me kind of get to where I am is I believed in this business, and I just kept taking basically one step at a time, and eventually we're here.
Yeah, and there's something that Nelly brought up that I want to speak about further, and I suffer from this big picture, disease whereby I'm like, no, but what's going to happen at the end? I'm thinking so far ahead rather than taking sort of
baby steps.
Yeah, small steps towards that.
So the thing is, when you're trying to get your dream to come into a reality, sometimes you're just latching onto the wrong idea, and that's a reality. So there's a lot of ego bashing that comes in the process, because I have had ideas where I'm so convicted, this is it, and I can feel it in my bone, as I can say what Nelly said. But you move along, and then you realize, because you still have to check it whether it's viable at the end of the day. Because if it's not making money, if it's not propelling you forward, it's just not viable for you, as in you're not a good fit for that idea. It might be a good fit for somebody else. So yes, you want to jump in, which is amazing, which is what I did, even with Networking in Heels. But there are others which I jumped in and it's just total failure. And it's very humbling. Financially humbling as well.
Financially humbling.
Yes. Okay. But at the end of the day, you still want that big picture, you want the glamour, you want to say, yay, mommy, I made it, And this is now where you start to get mentors. You start to get people you can talk with who can give you are those, you know, like people who want what you want, people who want, and they don't have to want you succeeding in the cup business, for example. They want your success. So they'll work with you and they'll be honest with you. They'll encourage you. They'll open some doors for you here and there, but you still have to keep on pushing yourself. And in the path to making your dream come to reality, there's a whole rough and tumble. It's not all cute. It is not cute at all the time. Is it cute?
No.
No.
No. It's the word I use is painful.
Yes, it's painful.
It is painful. So, like, one of the things that you're talking about when you're latching onto something, because being in the healthcare profession, we're talking about this, like, most of the people in my family are in healthcare. So it's sort of like, even moving forward with Pauline Cosmetics, it was really hard. I actually did not tell my boss. I did not tell my boss for like a year what I was doing, and even the medical fraternity I was working with, because I felt like a sense of I was
being disloyal.
I was being, I was loyal. And so it took a very long time for me to come to it myself, because I just felt like, you know, it's sort of like you set stone about this person who you're supposed to be. You've always talked about like, ooh, I'm going to be a nurse. You're like, you know, all I wanted to do was be a nurse, and then you got the opportunity to do it, and now I felt like, what am I doing? You know, how do you
explain this?
Exactly. But it's not, even though you get, you know, to this point, it's still not.
It's not the end. You can't arrive. Because one of the things, you realize that along the path you get tired. So sometimes just put your dream like, I'm tired, I want to go into something else. I know for sure I have been tired so many times, and I thought, maybe I should just do something else. And I actually went after those other things. But after a while, like a year, you're like, I miss my thing. So you get back into your thing, and you get back on the train, and you keep moving, and you realize, what was I doing? That was like 6 months wasted. That was 4 months wasted, and you're back onto it. So you will be fatigued, you feel discouraged, disillusioned, but you keep going, because at the end of the day, we're looking at, God willing, when you're 90 years old, what will you say? Because making your dreams come to reality is not a one-off. It's a day-by-day thing.
Process. I think for me, I don't feel like I had the big picture. Mine was the opposite. I jumped into the small steps and then realized, wait, where am I trying to go with this? And I think that's where I'd say family came in and be like, okay, where you're at, is it actually going to take you anywhere? What would you like to say you've achieved looking back when you're older, when you're 90? Do you have this legacy? And trying to turn that around is probably what was the hardest. I had to take that break and shift my focus. This is where I want to be. Now I need to work backwards. And it's painful on relationships, financially. Because you don't have time to do this, you don't have time to be out with your friends, don't have time to just be sitting and doing nothing, because focus is key. Focus is key, and a mentor helps. Good support from your family really helps. So that, I think, for me is
we started off talking about fear of failure, and I think it's important for people to hear that failure is part of the process, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Because, you know, some people are just so interested in telling the final story of, well, this is how I got successful, that the rest of it they kind of feel like is wasting their time along the way. So maybe we can just talk a little bit more about how crucial it is to fail in order to learn some lessons along the way.
And actually, I think we've talked about this, about how sometimes it's easy to see. For me, the people who inspire me are people who I can see their journey, how they're starting. So if you see people who've already made it around that platform, and you kind of want to have that life, but you really don't know what the behind the scenes are. So I think the reason why I actually dreamed to reality, this event is actually really, really awesome, is that there's that really being candid and real with that initial sort of, you know, journey, right? Whether it's the fear, whether it's the pain and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's basically trying to make sure that you kind of just hold on to the reality, to the dream, go through the fear. It's okay to be afraid. It's really okay. It's part of any other fear, like happiness and joy and all that kind of stuff. So it's okay to have the fear, and but the key is to push through the fear, or just do it with the fear, like, you know. Be afraid and do it anyway.
But failure is also very important. I have failed, not once, not twice, several times. What have I learned? It has also helped me to sift who my friends are, who which partners I should work with at any one time, and also to obey my gut feeling. A lot of times you say, oh, gut, you listen to that small voice, but you're like, no, but the reality is, so you go with what you're seeing instead of going with what you're feeling. And many times I have ignored my gut and then ended up just falling smack on my face, and it's not funny. You get backstabbed, you get blindsided. It is business, all right? And not everybody wants what you want. Not everybody has the vision that you have for yourself, and you will be detracted and by your closest and your nearest and your dearest. They'll be the ones who pull that one string and everything comes unraveling. And it costs you money, it costs you a peace of mind, it costs you time in terms of trying to recover and re-energize and regroup. But I'm not saying that everybody should go that way, but we will all have our own different forms of failure. You fail to please a client, that's failure, because the backlash on your brand it's coming, you know. You do an event and people come through, but then there's some people who will just not be happy, and that's, you know, so it just teaches you that you're human at the end of the day, and you're not a snow queen, you know, you're not an ice person. You're human, you will do things, you're not perfect, so it teaches you to keep on perfecting. Some of us, we didn't have frugality when we started, so we used to spend. So we learned to be, you know, a bit more careful now, and to be practical, teaches you to be a bit practical. Sort of like riding a bike, just don't go on any terrain. You want to go on the nice ones first before you can practice on the rough terrain. So that's what failure has taught me, and I'm not afraid to talk about the failure, because I know the bigger story is glamorous. Failure just makes it real.
I would say that the one thing I've learned from my failure is discipline. Discipline with money, discipline with your time, discipline with your routine, delivering what you say you're going to deliver to your client when you say you're going to deliver it. So if you don't fail, you don't get to the point where you feel the pain of not being to the standard you're offering.
And you for granted when you don't fail, like, woo, it's just nice,
so good and everything is perfect, and then when that happens, everything just falls from under you, and
it's easy to be depressed. Because you're on a nice roll. Like I was on a nice roll for a while there, and then I failed, and I was like,
why is this showing up now?
What is this happening? What is it? So you're confused, because you feel like you're on a catwalk and someone's pulled the rug from under your feet, and you were busy showing off and feeling good. But it just teaches you to always just know what the bounds are and how much further you can push at each and every step. But discipline is important for you're right.
There's something you brought up during your conversation where you said, you know, how other people would judge you based on your success or failure. Do you think it's important to let other people in on your dreams, people around you, your family, your friends? Does that detract from what you're trying to do?
I guess no.
For me, I think
so yes and no.
I think it depends on who you're sharing, but initially, you know, the people who, when you're starting something, the people around you know you in a different angle. They know you as, oh, you, that person, you know, like she's a joke. Oh, she's so they don't know the shifts that have happened in your life internally. They don't know, they don't understand how you've grown internally. So sometimes they're subjected to judge you from a right place, and because they're close to you. So I definitely shared my when I was starting the brand, I was in the healthcare industry. So, you know, the first reaction is like, why? You know. But then I think it's important to sort of dream it in your head for as long as you can. Write it in a journal. If you have to record and talk to yourself, like build it up in your mind as big as possible so that you're confident enough when you're delivering it to people. So that's the same even when you know, things like going for funding, going for talking to clients, pitching new clients. You want to be confident enough, but if you start sharing your story, I even tell this to my husband, you know, you tell people here and there and then there, everybody has opinions. So if you tell 200 people who have opinions, man, you're lost. So I think you have to leave room to build up the dream for yourself as long as you can, so that by the time you're actually sharing it, you're very confident about it.
I think for me, first of all, I'm very fortunate. I come from a very supportive family, so they're my first friends, my first circle of friends. So I share with them all my ideas, and they're like, okay, we think, okay. So they just give me their opinions, but they're basically all about, is it going to make you happy? So they're backing me up on that.
Really good.
But when it comes to my friends, the ones I've grown up with, people from college, people who've seen me in different arenas, I'm kind of like, really not keen on sharing, but sort of, I remember that when I started networking in Hills, I went to the sort of stranger community first, and that's where I got a lot of support for the idea from. And then now my friends are like, oh, so that's what you're doing nowadays, that's working out. So now they all start to rally around it, because a lot of times nobody wants to go with something which is just a speck of an idea. But when you start to germinate, we start to come around and say, oh, this is nice, and then we can support
They're able to see it for themselves and see that it's working. Did you share your ideas with family, friends?
Family, definitely. Because family are, even if they're critical, they come from a point of love. And they also are your biggest fans, so at least you have that support. You have the reality check as well. Are you sure? How will that work? And as for friends, careful on which friends you share with, and tell them when it's working, not when it's an idea. And tell less people, not even just friends, even the people out there. Don't tell them when until it's happening, because next thing somebody will be doing what you're trying to do, and there goes your idea. Someone got there before you. So a bit of both.
And I think also what Violet was saying, you're saying something like who to tell. Basically, I think you can tell it to sort of like people that mentors, people who've quote-unquote walked the journey. I think they have a much more better view and better perspective, and they can share. And then the other thing you said is like you went to the outside community, because sometimes what happens is that the people around you, and it's with love, you know, we love our family and our friends.
Most of the time.
But they're sometimes they're not the first people to support you. And it's until when the strangers start supporting you. I think, you know, for Pauline Cosmetics is when like people were just, you know, buying the product and
they'll remind you that you have bills to pay. So why are you doing this? Why are you taking this risk?
And also, you know, there's that level of like, oh, I know her from high school. Like what? You know. So there's that level of like they don't. Maybe they
don't see your potential in
exactly. But it's okay. But the thing is, like, once the outside world starts validating you, then the people around you will definitely. And it's okay. It's fine. I mean, that's maybe it would be the same also for me, for a friend or something like that. And that's. I think that's a journey.
Speaking on the issue of mentors, there's a temptation when you have a mentor and they've been successful to kind of copy and paste their journey into your life and say, well, this worked for this person. I'm going to follow the same steps and hope for the same results. What are the dangers in doing that?
You sort of lose your authenticity. You lose your
sense of self.
Yes, who you are in your essence. Because if I were to pick a mentor's journey, they don't always share with you what they've been through. They share with you the highlights. So you don't know about their sleepless nights most of the times. You don't know about that time they were in debt, say of even 30 million. You don't know about that time they were, you know, they were fighting with the mortgages, you know, to clear. You don't know what really they have been through. They just tell you, they give you practical steps from here to here, but the journey between step 1 and 2 is never really clear. So when you're coping, you're not coping with the full information in mind, and that's dangerous. So yes, follow their advice, but it's important that you still retain the essence of who you are, so that you don't lose it, that your story is your story, it's not Joey's story 10 years from now.
I also think sometimes the problem could be the mentor themselves imposing their ideas on you, because they think that their formula worked for them and therefore must work for you. And there's also, like, it's a different time. There are a couple of changes. There's how you want to do things for your company and for your business and your own plans. So sometimes the problem with a mentor is just that their success to them validates them telling you how to do things. So even as choosing a mentor, I think that's normally one of the things to be careful about. Maybe pick somebody who's not even in the same industry that you're in, so they're not necessarily telling you how it must be done.
Exactly. So you're free also to, you know, create your own path as you kind of go along.
And I think also, I mean, when you are starting out, you're also confused. You know, you have, I remember when I was being asked things like, what's your 5-year projections? What's your all this? And you're thinking, I don't even know how to do Excel. Like, what are you talking about? So there's, you know, there's initial, you're confused and you don't know where to start, and you don't even have money to cover, you know, your first, you don't know anything. And so it's easy to like be given ideas and like you can, you know, copy paste, but it's just so overwhelming. So sometimes it might not be a bad thing to copy somebody's existing whatever, if it's a mentor, so that it just gives you
guidelines,
a stat out. But the key, I think, is to be cautious not to lose your vision, and just to use it as a platform to step in. And then once you assess the market, and that was the same thing for us, is that it took me a whole year trying to figure out a business model. I started with makeup parties, and it's like, this is not working out. Like, how can we reach our market? What's the Kenyan market looking like? And so it was a combination of different business models that I'd seen out there. But then that was just a stepping stone to get us to where we are. But then nobody, even if you're copy pasting, you just land smack on the problems of that person. And then that's, I think, one of the things that we've talked about is like, I wish mentors would actually give people the raw deal. Just tell somebody how.
These are not the highlights.
Exactly.
This is how it's going to be.
Exactly.
You know, you talked about business models, and you know, when we're talking about practical steps of having a dream and trying to turn it into reality, you've also talked about putting it down on paper. You know, so let's just talk about some of those things, just way in the beginning that that you kind of have to do in order for this to be something that, all right, I'm on a path now and I'm going to get to where I'm going.
Right.
So what are some of those very first steps? Writing it down?
You want to go first?
I'd say write it down. I'd probably start, if you're really starting at the basic, at least a year, and then work back. So that if you're not way overwhelmed by the really big 5-year picture. So just a 1 year, work back, and think about the money that you're going to have to spend. Because you're going to have to spend money. No matter what it is, you have to spend money. So I'd say be cautious about the money.
Well, for me, I'd say think of it in little chunks. So you have like 90 days, which is 3 months, and then, you know, 6 months, and then a year, like that. So that if this is a new thing that it's new to you, it's in your mind, but you want to test it out. So you don't want to test it out with millions and millions and millions of capital. No, you start small. So you write it down and you say, this is what I want to do, this is who I'm targeting, and even write your list of potential clients, stroke partners, and how you're going to work it out. And call, just make sure that you're available to call people, to reach out to them all the time, and so that then within that first 90-day cycle, you really have tested a lot of things, and also tested your own patience and your own discipline, because a lot of no's come with trying to turn your dream into a reality. Even if your dream is for fitness, even if you're trying to run a marathon, there are days your body says, no, we can't run today. Tulale too, you know? So that kind of keep on pushing and building a discipline over a 90-day period, and then you push it into another 90-day period. And within a year, when you look back, you'll have seen what you have learned, what you have covered. And the secret is also not to, yes, you have to be ambitious and you have to think the glamour, think the big picture, think everything you want to achieve, but don't forget that it's step by step. So that's why for me I break it down into 90-day chunks. And in these 90-day chunks I'm able to weed out a lot of things, even within my own personality, my own bad habits. I'm able to weed them out and to be honest, and just to know that that's a bad person to work with, or maybe I messed up that person, so I need to go back to the drawing board. So that way I'm also able to manage expenses. When you do 90-day chunks, you're able to manage your expenses. When you do 90-day chunks, you're able to manage your
expectations.
Yes, as well. Expectations.
Like reevaluate.
Yes, you're always reevaluating. So I think that for me would be advice across the board for anybody. Because I think in 3 months you can study for an exam and pass as well.
It's possible.
I think for me the biggest thing is starting where you are, whatever you are, with the smallest resources that you have. Whether it's a Facebook page, you're making cakes and you just post them online, somebody's going to see them. So just starting where you are, think big, start small. Because the moment, like you're saying, like you're thinking this end goal, you get so overwhelmed and you shut down very easily. So I think like grouping it up like that, like 3 months, where do I want to be, and just start small. I started with $400, which is like what? How much is $400?
40K.
40,000.
Yeah. To where we are right now, we're in over 40 different outlets in Kenya and going to East Africa. $400. So think big, and I'm thinking really, really big, but start small, it's easier that way.
Yeah. There's another dream that you guys are actualizing or in the process of.
Yes.
An event that you are all going to be speaking at, I understand, maybe?
Tonight.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so tonight we'll be at the Amber Hotel, just on Gong Road next to Prestige Plaza. From 6 p.m. we're having the event. It's called Networking in Hills, and our theme for tonight is Dreams to Reality. Okay. So Nelly Tikong is one of our speakers. We have another speaker called Wamoyo Mahinda. She's not here with us this morning. She's a professional coach and career mentor as well. And I'll be there. I'll be the moderator for that particular event. And I look forward to seeing a lot of ladies coming through, and some men always pop in, so they're welcome as well. So come through to Amber Hotel tonight from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. The other thing I want to say about turning dreams to reality, it is okay to have as many dreams as possible. You don't only have to have one dream. You can have as many as possible. That's why we have the wonderful brain that God gave us. So you can actualize as much as possible within the life that you've been given. Yeah. So I look forward to seeing you as well.
Yeah, I heard about it, and I thought that's a great idea for your event. Are there limits to any of this? As we're being realistic now, are there limits? You know, some people are thinking, well, I just don't have those connections, or I don't have the money right now. Or what are some of those real life limits that can stop us from getting on this journey?
I think there's no limits. I think the limits, and I'm not saying that I've accomplished everything. But one thing that I've come to realize, it's almost magical. I moved to Nairobi 2013, did not know anyone, had no connections, nothing. So nobody. I think a lot of it is mental block. And also once you start doing something, I've met you, you know, things just start rolling, and people come, connections come.
But you have to start.
You have to start. You cannot wait to have, you know, all these connections. And, you know, I don't come from an affluent family. I really do not know. If you were to tell me, let's meet in Langata 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I'd be like, wait, what?
How do I get there?
So you just start, and I think for me that's the key. That's the analysis paralysis, where people are waiting for all the connections to make and all the pieces to fit. That can never happen if you do not start. Just start. Make a post. Do something. Talk to 2 people. I think for me that has been the biggest. I would say it's a miracle, really. Just start and things will happen.
Yeah. For me to answer your question, age can be a limit. Like, I wouldn't go into ballet class right now. I'm sorry. I'm limited. I'm limited by age. But the limits that we have are basically, your education can be a limit if you want to get into certain fields and you want to excel into them. So you need to start from somewhere in terms of getting the skills and the technical abilities for some dreams. Some limitations would be health as well, you know. So it really depends on what field you want to go into, and that will be limited by the things that are practical. But usually, I'll go back to what Nelly said, it's a mental block. So if I want to be a doctor today, or if I want to be a lawyer today, I have to go back to school. So I just can't watch Suits and be a lawyer.
There was the 90-year-old guy who went to school when the free education thing came in.
Yes. What is it?
I can't remember his name. I just
was 84 at the time.
Oh, yeah.
He's called who?
Yeah, that was the basis of the movie, The First Grader.
Yes, The First Grader.
I don't think there are limits, by the way, Violet. I just think that there might be hurdles. So the same way you're saying, I want to be a doctor, then I just have to go to school. You're saying, okay, I might not be able to do ballet, but I can start a ballet school. You see, so I just think it's hurdles. I don't believe it's anything. There's no limit. If you want to bake a cake, go and tell your neighbors that I'm baking a cake. You don't have to know them. Just knock on the doors and be like, I'm baking. Will you guys try my cake? Okay, when next time we have kids' birthdays, I'm now baking for the whole neighborhood. There's no such thing. There are no limits.
There are no limits.
No limits. Only hurdles.
I can't bake to save my life.
Then you go to and you find a baker, or you go to class and learn how to bake, and then you start the business.
No, there's YouTube. I normally say so.
YouTube
you were asking me
University?
how did I get into makeup? Even back then there was nothing. You would Google how to start a makeup company. Nothing. Nowadays there's so many things. I say there's the University of Google and University of YouTube. You can learn how to. People learn how to be, you know, incredible makeup artists on YouTube.
Look at Diego.
Exactly.
Oh, our YouTuber, our Javelin guy, right? So No limits.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I just Google some things and I'm like, thank the Lord. Day and age where we have access to so much information.
Yeah.
I want to thank you ladies for being here today. Nelly Twikong, the director of Pauline Cosmetics. Dupu Wambua, founder of Networking in Heels. They'll be having a session tonight at Amber Hotel, as you've heard. And of course, Gadoni Mahinda, who's an entrepreneur. You ladies are so inspirational. No limits, just hurdles.
Yes.
That's my takeaway for today. Keep using the hashtag Power Breakfast to continue this conversation. We're going to have one last performance from the band today, and then we'll be back to wrap it up.